Computer. Good morning, everybody. It's April 8th, 2022. It's This Week in XR. I'm Charlie Fink. I'm here with Ted Schilowitz. And thank you to our sponsor, Verbella. Today, our guest, in fact, is Alex Howland, the founder and president of Virbela. So we'll look forward to having another great conversation with him. He certainly has. Verbella just celebrated its 10th anniversary with an upgrade. So we'll look forward to hearing about how that business is developing and benefiting as one of the pioneers in the metaverse. Not a huge exciting news week this week, Ted, unless you work for DigiLens, which just pulled down another $50 million to make low-cost waveguides. And they can make tens of thousands of these a day. And Samsung just doubled down as their lead investor. So I don't think you need a lot of imagination to imagine where those lenses are going to end up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's been a while, but I've been to the DigiLens factory, as it were, their laboratory, and seen the work that they were doing with these, polycarbonates and effectively bringing the cost and the size down to the ability to sort of get them into form factor like the glasses that you're wearing, and it's getting closer all the time. So it makes sense as we continue to march down this road, which seems like we've been talking about it for a long time, Charlie, that the form factor is the critical inertia for this stuff.
Well, DigiLens has been hawking me since CES 2017, so this is not a startup.
Yeah, it's not a startup. Well, it is a startup, but it's not a young startup. And
well, they're boasting about their $530 million valuation, so that sounds very much not like a startup.
Yeah, and they're making the kind of progress that a hardware enabling company needs to make. It's slow and steady. It takes a long time, and they're achieving their objectives, which is an interesting one to keep track of.
So the other big news this week, Unreal Engine 5 finally launches, one of the most highly anticipated developer-focused launches of the year. Yeah. Unreal Engine makes, there are two main game engines. Unreal Engine tends to be focused on AAA games. They do make VR games. People can use it to make VR games. And the other big one, of course, is Unity, which really made its bones in the world of apps, but is also very popular with VR developers. Unreal Engine 5 contains a Los Angeles-sized city that has been recreated in tremendous detail that any developer, or frankly anyone using Unreal Engine 5, can actually drive through. They did a demo of it, was included in the Matrix Reloaded free PC.
Now the whole thing is being shown.
Yeah, so it's a pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to booting it up and playing with it. They're just installing it on the Chapman computers this week.
Oh, so you can drive around on it.
Yeah, so I can take it for a little bit of a test drive. Needless to say, it's going to be a big fat program. So I don't know how you're going to have a pretty advanced gamer level PC to even load the beast. But Unreal Engine introducing some really powerful new technology, and to say developers were excited this week would be an understatement.
Yeah, well, for anybody that's played GTA and drives around in that world for hours on end going, man, this looks pretty good. This takes it to a whole nother level.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think we're going to see movies set in this city. We're going to be seeing this city a lot.
Well, and it's a big proof point because, as you mentioned, the two competing game engines, the two main ones that the bulk of the population that touches this stuff uses. Unreal is also very much in the last few years leaned into cinematic use cases for their engine, and have a whole number of business units around this now that power LED walls and cinematic workflows, and their CTO came from ILM, so there's a big push to that. And this building out these photorealistic use cases, this is a proof point for them that goes, even though gaming is still the giant monetization zone, it goes well beyond gaming use cases. So
both game engines have a big focus on Hollywood right now, because the ability for a real-time game engine combined with an LED wall and some clever set dressing, you can create things like Mandalorian or even Westworld on a very small soundstage.
Well, and many other shows now that you would never even know, like many things that just seem normal, car driving scenes, walk and talk, detective procedural stuff that you think is being shot on location is not shot on location anymore.
Yeah.
The pandemic drove a lot of that use case, and now it is becoming very commonplace. So it's an interesting thing to track.
So from the sublime to the ridiculous, this week, the Lego verse, following the Wendy verse, we now have this. So this was Epic saying, wait, Facebook doesn't get to verse everything. That's not fair. We're going to have a verse. So they came up with the Lego verse.
Well, look, Lego is a huge brand, right? And they, of course, have big Hollywood connections with the Batman.
Yes, of course. Well, the Lego movies are legendary.
Lego movies and all the different things. So it's a big play for Epic and Lego to partner at that level. And then as you know, because we were talking beforehand, as we talk about the ridiculousness of it, which it just adds to the fodder of where all this goes with all things Web3. I have a big discussion right after our podcast about Web3.
Oh God, don't even get me started on the fucking made up word.
But it's interesting, the Wendy's verse, and then I think the end of the world as we know it is that the all but famous McRib from McDonald's is now an NFT, which I think is kind of
delicious.
The marker of all markers is when you get a McRib as an NFT, it's game on, baby.
Oh man, I'm going to take that McRib NFT and make it my profile picture on Twitter.
There you go.
Or Instagram.
Yes, there you go.
So let's see. Like I said, it was a slow news week. Let me before we bring in Alex, let's see if we can get one good one. The Army.
Continues its sort of
I guess their training request this year was cut in half, and so IVAS was being slow walked anyway, but now it really is. So I guess I was wrong, and the critics were right. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And IVAS is not going to take the U.S. Army by storm in the next couple of years. Although if you talk to people at the Army, as I recently did, they love Microsoft, and I think they're very sincere about it and very serious about IVAS. But, the idea of dismounted infantry using something like a HoloLens is a little bit scary because you need like 110% uptime when your life is at stake. And I'm not sure that any of the technology doing XR right now is that good.
So it goes a little bit back into the laboratory mode. I think they're also waiting for the next gen.
That's what they said. They mentioned right? for the first time that the specs that they really need are more in the third version of the HoloLens, which I have not heard anything about.
Yeah, well, clearly they know because they've got $20 billion committed somewhere in some shape or form to this, right? So
yeah, but the $22 billion was a 10-year commitment.
Right. 10-year commitment.
So we're only in year 2.
Right, a couple billion a year.
Yeah, exactly. What's a couple of $1 billion a year?
That's right.
Once upon a time, that used to be real money. So I didn't mention it, but can you see that I'm wearing my Los Angeles Dodgers?
I see that. The season has started.
It is finally opening day, Ted.
Yes, the season has started. Congratulations.
That's one of those analog pleasures that I just can't seem to get enough of, although I am pretty much guaranteed to be the guy to fall asleep in the 7th inning of a night game.
Well, you and I are of that age where we still appreciate the idea of physical goods and merchandise and sports, right? So it's interesting, and I, still love to go to physical movies, right? So,
I have not seen a movie in a movie theater since 2018.
Oh, it's time to go back, Charlie. Please support the industry that I work in.
Go forth and spend $22 on a movie ticket, my son.
If you need to save a little money, go to a matinee. It's okay.
So I know it's geezerish to say this, but I did grow up in a world where movies were $1.
That's yeah. I'm trying to remember when I was a kid how much movies were. It wasn't quite $1, but I think it was.
This is a slow news week when we're reflecting on this. Let's bring in Alex. He just showed up in the green room.
All right, great.
One of the things I love about Verbella, and I will get Alex to tell us the story, is I love company stories.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So this is a great company story where Alex started. Alex, good morning.
How are you, gentlemen? Hey, Charlie. Hey, Ted.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Likewise.
Congrats. So we were just talking about your 10th anniversary.
Thank you. Yeah, it's pretty wild ride. Can't believe we've been at this for 10 plus years.
So let's talk about the company story, because it is a terrific story, in my opinion. Glenn Stanford, the owner of eXp Realty, worked with you all these years ago to be your first customer for the virtual world for business that you created.
Yeah, quite the ride for sure. We started Verbella really as a place for learning and development and professional growth. And Glenn extended our vision in thinking that you can actually run entire companies in the virtual world, just like you'd have, physical brick and mortar offices. Why not move those into the cloud so your office is everywhere, and certainly a heck of a lot cheaper than having brick and mortar every little corner of every little town if you're a real estate company.
Sorry, go ahead, Ted.
No, it's interesting. Like already.
Well, eXp Realty, here's the thing about eXp Realty. This is not like some small technology.
No, it's a huge, right?
They're like the opposite of a technology company. And so for sort of a regular, straight ahead company in a very traditional business, it's a big business. Glenn is a really talented entrepreneur who recognized the opportunity to be a global broker and to create a global community around that.
Right.
And so I think he was really visionary, and it took a lot of guts to say, this company is not going to have a physical office. I mean, the company went public. It's worth, I don't know, Alex, probably $5 or $10 billion at this point.
Billions of dollars.
They've got 35,000 agents on the platform who have offices, eXp offices in Verbella.
It's actually gone from 1,000 to 78,000 agents.
And a lot of that growth has come in the past 18, 24 months.
Yeah, it's insane. During a global pandemic, they've now expanded into at least 20 countries. And, so they haven't stepped foot on a plane to open those countries, right. But their headquarters is located everywhere. So it's really easy to stand up a new country and give space to them, as well as allowing them to be part of the broader community that they've created, which is really fun to watch and incredible to watch, because the model really incentivizes collaboration and agents supporting agents to be successful.
And so Verbella has grown along with eXp, right? You've seen some phenomenal growth in the past 2 years.
Yes. Yeah. My team, we started predominantly in San Diego. Pre-pandemic, we were about 20 folks, a few remotes. And since pandemic hit, we've gone from about 20 to about 150. And all of those folks, mostly in the States, but some abroad as well. And, we drink our own champagne, as we like to say, and our headquarters is also actually in the Verbella Open Campus, which is open for anyone to come in and come visit me in my office anytime, which has been a really, really great experience, right? Because there's so much to learn in how to operate effectively, in these environments that, you can't build it if you're not experiencing it yourself.
Of course not.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that you guys bring this up, because, as the sponsor of the show, Charlie and I opine week after week about the virtualization of effectively everything, right?
Yeah.
Which of course now has this term that we have overused called the metaverse, and the metaverse stamp gets applied, right?
Right.
But you're a perfect example of and we often talk about the enterprise layers of things like virtual reality, mixed reality, and that are hugely successful and largely underreported and under-discussed.
Right.
You are a perfect example of understanding and grasping into the virtuality of what changed from moving things from physical goods and objects and deliverables. Ultimately, though, the company at large underneath it all is working on delivering one of the biggest physical goods that an average family would buy in their lifetime, and then as well as on the commercial real estate side. But you've figured out a way to virtualize all of that and to allow it to be insanely more productive, insanely more active, and your growth pattern represents that, right? So you're a perfect example of what we talk about all the time as success points of how we use technology to be a growth engine, right?
Yeah. When I think about the metaverse, I think about kind of losing the line between digital and physical. But for eXp to operate in the digital world and get all sorts of tremendous value by doing so. But as you said, selling some of the most expensive things that consumers
Of course.
purchase,
Most
right?
people's
Is-
retirement is tied up with their house.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So really, really powerful. And EXP really believes in the brand of the agent and the importance of the agent to that buying and selling homes. So EXP does its absolute best to support the agent so they can be fantastic for the
It's the
buyer or the seller.
ultimate consultative sale,
Yeah.
right? Where
Yeah.
the agent is actually not selling the house as much as advising you, because they've done it hundreds of times and you're going to do it once or twice or maybe 3 times in your lifetime.
Exactly.
So it's a very, very personal relationship. And of course, we know many people who have become friends with their broker, because typically the broker lives in their neighborhood.
Right. Exactly.
So you said you went from 20 to 130. That's an incredible amount of growth. What does that look like on the customer side?
So yeah, we've signed hundreds of customers since the pandemic started. We've seen a bit of a shift in the customers. So when the pandemic first hit, it was a lot of small, medium-sized businesses, companies that could be really, agile. They weren't putting you through 60-page master service agreements and those sorts of things. And they were entrepreneurial, right? They needed to pivot and pivot fast. So lots of folks in the events business or education business, that it was either, hey, find a way to pivot or fold. So it was really fun to see all these entrepreneurial mindsets of folks just jump in and move fast in the environment. Now, I think big enterprise is catching up. And what's nice about big enterprise, despite the long, sales cycles and, making sure we're SOC 2 compliant and GDPR compliant, all of the heavy lifting that comes with being ready to support the enterprise, they have obviously the resources to put towards the environments to make them successful. So this isn't like a magic pill. You set it up and it just takes off itself, right? You need to cultivate community. You need to support your users just like you would if they were coming to a physical location.
Well, and you've been building the platform around that idea, right? So that, you just had a major upgrade. It looks better, more avatar options. What else did you guys pack into that upgrade?
Yeah, so a new campus feel was the main thing that we've pushed out so far, and the idea is to really have a beautiful place for the enterprise, a place that kind of feels like a downtown, welcoming city that blends, the cityscape as well as the connection to nature, and making people just feel kind of relaxed and comfortable in the environment we see as a foundation to community. Also, a lot more modular, so we can expand and contract as communities grow. Some of the benefits of these environments is, again, really nimble in terms of supporting growth or even contraction. We are later this year going to release new avatars, and avatars that are really representative of a global population. So over 50% of our users are outside of the US. And we want everyone to be able to feel like they can express themselves.
You want to reflect what those people actually look like in their societies and their communities.
Exactly. So that new system will give an absolute ton of customization options for those who want to go deep into the customization. It'll also be easy, kind of click from a menu of kind of pre-made options for those who don't want to spend the time to really dial it in.
Well, and particularly on your first visit, you just want to get in there and use it,
Right. Yeah.
Other than the real estate sort of vertical, which you're firmly in and part of your heritage, what are the other kind of areas that you're seeing as the business communities, the enterprise communities that are starting to find their way into Verbella? I'm curious on that.
Yeah, so most aren't to the point where EXP is in terms of we're going to use this as our headquarters, right? Mm-hmm. So many of our customers are progressing that direction through some element of the employee experience journey. So PwC, for example, uses us for a number of things, but one of them is recruiting, right? Mm-hmm. A central place to tap into students from many universities to come, and their avatar gives them the agency to talk around, move around and talk to different groups within PwC to build relationship, to understand the different opportunities, at PwC. It gives PwC an opportunity to differentiate from competitors, have access, but also, look cool and sexy that they're, doing
They're a modern
something.
company and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Deloitte, so a lot of the big consulting firms, Deloitte DXC, which is HP's former consulting arm, is doing more and more in the environment. Really excited about their growth, in the platform, doing things like really senior leadership meetings, kickoffs, annual kickoffs in the platform, sales kickoffs and gatherings of where they used to bring folks all together for some of these meetings. They're saying, hey, we can save a ton of money, not only in terms of the cost to bring everyone together, but the time out of the office that it takes to travel, the time to recover from travel.
Yeah.
And we can get a lot of the same kind of intimacy and in serendipity in terms of the relationships and in communication patterns that can occur, in the virtual world to be successful. Also, they can bring in their customers, right? Their vendors,
Right.
their partners, so they put them in the expo hall, and it's, again, a way to engage between their greater ecosystem of stakeholders.
Yeah, you get them out of this 2D email and text and into a spatial environment, into a little more of a game-like environment where they're actually understanding what it feels like to be in a virtual community, right?
I actually think that's one of the most exciting things about
The
Verbella.
key point,
is that
yeah.
it's meets people where they are.
Right.
You don't have to put on the VR headset or be particularly tech savvy to enjoy the benefits, and they've also built in a lot of fun into it, so it kind of is seductive even to people who are inclined to resist
Mhm.
things like this. And I think what you find, and Alex, I'm super interested in your perspective, but certainly in my consulting business, as I tried to help companies onboard their executives and their employees, there are just too many people who are not going to do it right now.
Yeah.
It's not quite good enough. It's too new is another problem, right? Whereas
Right.
Verbella is familiar. It looks like a video game. You get the idea of walking around using, the keys on your keyboard. These are things that people have done, even if they're not particularly tech heavy. So
Yeah.
I think that really is quite elegant. And the options you've given people just to control the avatar have gotten better over time as you have, been able to observe, behavior on a much larger scale.
Right. Yeah. We think a lot about accessibility, right? And if you're not, as for anyone who wants to be accessible, right, or inclusive in their meetings, they're going to go somewhere else, right? So we really think about that accessible nature, making it easy to get in and use wherever you maybe are. One of the other things that we announced a couple of weeks ago was that we're also working on a Zoom integration. So think of maybe even the senior leader who wants to support the initiative, but isn't quite ready to get in there, via an avatar too. There's bridges, just like a Zoom room in a physical office. There's Zoom rooms within Verbella that bridges the video experience with the 3D experience. And people ask us, well, why don't you give, more attention to the VR experience? We will, as soon as we get market demand for it.
Yeah.
Just
Well, you have a side play, so to speak. You've assigned a group of people who are working. Is it Frame?
Yeah. So we have Frame, and then we also have a defense team. So on the defense team side, we create highly immersive training simulations for our nation's military, and that's using the bleeding edge of VR, XR. The Vario, the highest, the $8,000, a headset type machine, and 3D printed objects that give you the haptics and you can see through. So we certainly have the capabilities on the VR AR side, and we're doing things in the markets that are ready for it, which right now is military. And then other direction, we have Frame, which Frame is incredible. Frame we're doing a lot of the same things we do in Verbella, but entirely on the web. 2-3 years ago now, we said, hey, accessibility is really important. If this could ever be done entirely on the web, again, back to that accessibility piece, it's going to offer so much more opportunity to touch a lot more people. So we knew we'd be sacrificing scale. We wouldn't be able to bring as many people.
Right, because Verbella, you can have thousands of uniques in the same simulation.
Yes, yeah, we're definitely unique, and I think the platform that supports the most, particularly within one current scene, we'll get over 1,500 people, in an auditorium where most competitors are between, maybe 50 and 100.
Right.
So many multiples, but Frame, we thought maybe we get 15, and 15 is a good start. Well, Frame's already gotten to 100, concurrent users now in this web-based model. And because it's entirely web-based, you can get in on anything with a browser. So, your mobile device.
Verbella is one platform only, right?
For the most part, Verbella is, PC and Mac. I'd say 95% of our users are there. We have a complementary mobile app that just allows you to connect to the voice channels of the 3D environments. And it's 2-directional. You can talk into the room as well as listen. We'll build that out further. And then you can get into Verbella in VR, but it's not, you're more a participant. You can give your hand gestures and those sorts of things, but we haven't linked up to all of the bells and whistles, web boards, and presentation options for the VR experience, again, just because we haven't had the demand to make it a priority. But Frame, yeah, all different devices. It's also fully customizable. So we have some fantastic teachers in different parts of the world building hundreds of frames of curriculum. This gentleman, Andrew Wright in Australia, creating the Great Barrier Reef, right, to teach students about the Great Barrier Reef, or a big ship to teach them about the convicts on their way to Australia. So really powerful in terms of what we call extensibility, the ability to customize and create with these environments. Frame is incredible for it already. We certainly have ambitions for more third-party creators for Verbella as well down the line in our vision.
So the idea is to really use advanced visual tools to actually make this a visual learning platform as well as a
right
sort of connection platform.
Yeah, we think you got to have the foundational elements like any university or corporate headquarters would have. Your auditoriums, your classrooms, your boardrooms, your offices, those sorts of things. But the beauty of these digital worlds is you can go beyond that, right? You can create games that develop team building, right? For team building, you can create curriculum that puts you into, the scene, whether that's a fulfillment center for, really large e-commerce company, or it's going to Mars, for K-12 education. The options, the opportunities are endless. We can't build it all ourselves. So how do we help create tools for our users and our customers to diversify the product to their liking?
That's a very game engine approach, right? Is start it, build it yourself for your own purposes, and then allow others to actually tap into it.
That's right. Yeah.
So Alex, people can experience Verbella themselves today. They don't have to have an invitation from the company, right?
Absolutely not. Yeah. You can go right on our website, verbella.com, VIBELA.com. And you'll see a get started for free button. You can download our open campus where I go to work every day. And
so people can walk right into your office and knock?
Yes, literally. Yeah, we drink our own champagne. That's where my team operates. And another advantage is we have multiple floors of offices. Some kind of more confidential teams or teams that can't be distracted are on floors that the general public can't get to. But our main office, where my office sits, is open to the public, so people can literally come in.
That is so cool. Alex, thank you for coming on the show today. I also a sincere thanks from both of us for supporting our work. Your support makes it possible for us to rapidly edit this podcast and get it posted within a couple of hours. So we'll tag you on the socials, and hopefully everybody can hear about and experience Verbella's great work. One last question. Where did the name Verbella come from?
Verbella came from. Okay, so yeah, I started myself and some other organizational psychologists started Verbella. So I was pursuing my PhD in organizational psychology. Our first funding came from GMAC, the owner of the GMAT exam, to get into business school. So our first idea was to build a global community of leadership development for the MBA population. So virtual business environment for learning and assessment was the original name. You're like a true academic,
Yeah.
real mouthful.
No wonder the military likes it.
So you stick with Verbella. Yeah.
Like
Well,
scuba.
that's our show this week, everybody. We'll see you next week. Have a great weekend. Ted, always a pleasure. And
Hey,
Alex,
Charlie,
really fun to talk to you as
thanks for talking to
always.
us, Alex. Really interesting.
Thanks, Charlie. Thanks, Ted.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
And we're out.